we're going to go to the section on page, go to page, page 70. All right, we're skipping a little bit over here. Then if we have time, we'll come back to that. So the Torah says like this, 4 lines from the top. Page 70, 4 lines from the top. We're going to take this pasuk by pasuk because there's a lot of subtleties here that contained over here. Okay. The Torah says, Sarai eshes Avram lo yoldalo. Sarai, guys, could I ask you guys, we're having a shir. Alicia, who's it? You don't have to stay if you don't want, but don't. Page 70. Sarai eshes Avram lo yoldalo. Sarai did not bear a child for Abram. V'lo shivcha mitzris ushma Hagar. She had an Egyptian maidservant named Hagar. And the Medrash says that Paro gave, when he saw what the miracles that were done for Abram and Sarah in Egypt, so he gave his daughter to Abram as a maidservant. Vatomer Sarai el Avram. So Sarai says, and can we get some air in here, by the way? There's absolutely no air flow whatsoever. The windows are, at least open the windows if possible. You don't have to turn on. Don't turn on, just open. If we could just open the windows, get some. Vatomer Sarai el Avram. So Sarai says to Avram, Hine na'atzarani Hashem iledes. Hashem has stopped me from giving birth, from bearing children. Bona el shivchasi, live with my maidservant. Ulai ibanat mimena. Maybe I will be built up from her. Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. Avram obeys Sarai. Now, if you notice, 2 things happen. First of all, Avram obeys. Take a look at Rashi. It's the right column of Rashi, 6 lines from the bottom. L'ruach hakodesh sheba. Avram Avinu was listening to the ruach hakodesh in Sarai. He obeyed her because of her ruach hakodesh. And the question here becomes like this: what is Sarai in this? She doesn't have any children, so she says to Avram, "Here, you live with my maidservant, and maybe I will be built up from her." What does that mean? What are you expecting to happen over here? Let me just open it. Can you slide that window open, Gabriel, over there?
It's open.
Okay, great. I like that. So the question is, thank you. The question is, what was Sarah hoping for? What was she trying to accomplish here? I mean, so Hagar will have a child. What's that got to do with Sarah? So there are different approaches here among the Mefarshim. One approach is that Sarah feels, look, I may physically not be able to have a child, and there is a medrash that says she didn't even have a womb. You know, a baby is carried by a mother for 9. A baby is carried by a woman for 9 months. He gets free womb and board. But the Sarai Meda doesn't even have a womb. She is incapable of having children. Number 1, according to the Medrash. Number 2, what she's hoping for is, look, if I understand that we are meant to build a nation. If I can't provide the physical body, so I'll have somebody else provide the physical body. At least they'll provide the physical body, and I'll provide the spiritual development. Right? I'll raise the child. And I'll be one of the building blocks of the Jewish people by raising this child and instilling values into the child. I keep this in mind because it's going to come back later to haunt us. But this is what Sarah, at one level. There's another level that says, look, I don't have children, but my husband doesn't have children. Maybe if I allow him to have children, the merit of allowing, because Abram doesn't have children right now either. If my allowing him to have a child, maybe that will create a benefit. I'll be rewarded that I'll have my own child. And I'll let him live with her and have a child with her. So I'm letting Avram Avinu have a child. If he could have a child, so then I'll be paid back by God since I've been unselfish towards him. So maybe God will help me that I'll have a child. That's the different approaches here. Okay. So what does Avram Avinu do? He says, Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. Vatikach Sarai Eshes Avram es Hagar HaMitzris Shivchasa. She takes this Hagar. Miketz Eser Shanim L'Shevas Avram Be'eretz Canaan. Vatitein Osa LaAvram Isha Lo L'Isha. Gives her to Avram as a wife. This, by the way, is very interesting because they have this thing called as a surrogate mother, which creates many halachic problems nowadays, where there are different ways of doing it, but one of them is that the father, the husband and wife are able to fertilize the egg, but then the egg is planted. The fertilized egg is then planted to another woman, and she carries the baby for 9 months and gives the baby back to the parents, which the poskim talk about. First of all, it's not been approved by the poskim. There are other things like in vitro fertilization, which under certain circumstances is permissible according to halacha. Obviously, each individual case needs the input of a qualified halachic authority. But this what they call a surrogate mother, where she carries the baby, it has there many different problems. Number one, who is the actual mother? Who is the actual mother of the child? You know, it's not clear who the actual mother is. Is it the mother who carried her? Is it the mother who provided the egg? So and again, it creates other problems. That the poskim haven't really given approval to yet. They, you know, and a lot of these things we don't have precedent necessary for it in the Gemara. Even though there are certain things you could figure out. It is problematic, and halacha is very problematic. On the other hand, there are things that are permissible according to halacha, but they do have to have input and direct input from a qualified halachic authority. It's got to be not just anybody who's running around and says, yeah, it's good with the smith. It's got to be a qualified halachic. These are very heavy questions in halacha. In any event, there's an interesting question here. So Avram Avinu is gonna live with her. So what happens? Vayavo el Hagar vatahar. He lives with her and she becomes pregnant. Now you notice the word vatahar. What's at the root of that word?
Here.
That's tahor with a tes. This is tahar.
Mountain.
Right. Why mountain? Because when a woman becomes pregnant, she becomes mountain-like. You know, she gets to the point of like Jiffy Pop. You know, ever see the popcorn where you put it on a thing, right? And so she becomes mountainous. Vatere ki harasa, she saw that she became pregnant. Vatekal gevirta be'eneha. Now her master, Sarah, her mistress, Sarah, who's her master, she takes her lightly. That means Rashi says that Hagar thought, I guess that's Sarah. Right now, again, she's Sarai at this point. So Hagar, she had a reputation of being a big tzaddikus. Sarai was Avram's wife, and she has a tzaddikus, and Hagar is thinking, well, I guess she's not what she's cracked up to be. I mean, she's been living with this man for all these years and has never gotten pregnant, and I lived with him once, and I'm already pregnant. So I guess Sarai isn't what she's cracked up to be. Vatekel gevirta be'neha. Now, how does our school translate it? Because it needs a very, she was lowered in her esteem. You see, that's where it loses something in the translation. It's a good translation. But you see, in Hebrew, she was taken lightly in her eyes. And according to the Parsha, it's very interesting. She didn't even say anything. She did. Sarah Imenu saw it in Hagar's eyes. That means up until this point, she looked at Sarah Imenu as the boss. And all of a sudden she gets pregnant and she's got a look in her eye. Do you know that there's a college basketball coach who once got a technical foul just for looking at the referee? Yeah, he was looking, he was just looking at the rest. You hit him with a T because of the way he was looking. There's a certain look, what we call like gloating. You're gloating. I mean, listen, I used to torture my younger brother when he'd get particularly vulnerable when he'd be tired and cranky. He'd be real tired at night. And all I had to do was kind of look at him like, give him one of those. I could get him to tears like that. Just looking at him, I could get him to tears. So, vatekel gevirta be'eneha, in her eyes. That means in her eyes, the art scroll translates it esteem, which is really the meaning of it, but at a double layer of the meaning, Sarah sees it in her eyes. So what happens? Vatomer Sarai el Avram, chamasi alecha. I'm upset with you. Anochi nasati shivchasi b'cheikecha. I gave you my maidservant. Vatera ki harasa ve'ekal be'ineha. And she got pregnant, and I taking me lightly. Yishmod Hashem beini uvenecha. Hashem should judge between us. What does Sarah want from Avram Avinu? It was your idea. What do you want, Sarah? She comes to Avram Avinu. I'm upset with you. Why? Because I gave her to you, and she got pregnant, and she's taking me lightly. What do you want from me? I mean, it was your idea, and I even listened to you. The answer is that Sarah is saying, well, you davened for a son. Why did you daven for me too? Rashi says, when you davened, you should have davened for me also. That's what Rashi brings down. You said to Hashem, I'm without children. That was previously. Why did you daven on both of us? Why did you daven? You should have a child. Daven for both of us. So what's happening over here? Why is Sarah really upset? What does she realize is going to happen? And by the way, what comes about as a result of this? Who's the child that she's going to end up having? Ishmael. Yeah? Ishmael, soon to be the mayor of New York. Ishmael. Right? So we got, and Ishmael, we're going to see down the line, Ishmael starts all sorts of trouble. What went wrong over here? What went wrong over here? Wasn't the plan that she'll have a child and Sarah will instill values in her? So where does this go off? The answer is that it's already at this point, Sarah sees, this is not going to work out. My plan is not going to work out. Why? Because if Hagar is no longer accepting the authority of Sarah, that means that's going to be transmitted to her son, and the son's not going to accept her authority either. Well, this is what ends up happening. He becomes a Yishmael. He becomes a Yishmael because there's an undermining of Sarai Menu's Sarah. 1 second. So what is Avram there? Vayomer Avram el Sarai, hinei shivchosech b'neicha silach katov b'neiich. Vateanea Sarah torments her, vativrach mipaneha. So Hagar runs away. What did she torment her? Abram says, listen, you're right, you do with her whatever you want. Sarah torments her. And let's put this in a proper perspective, gentlemen. Sarah is a tzaddikus. What do you think she did? She subjected her to some waterboarding? What did she do to her? She hung her upside down? And what did she do that she tormented her? There's an interesting life lesson here. You could do the same thing, and for one person, sometimes the very same thing that you do could be a pleasure, or you're happy to do it, and sometimes it could be a torment. You know what is a classic example? Have you ever worked a job and you've given notice that you're leaving in 2 weeks? Have you ever quit a job and you've given notice?
Yes.
How are those last 2 weeks?
The worst.
You were doing the same thing that you were doing before. Going to work those last 2 weeks, I've done it. Going to work when you don't have to be. I'm out of here already. I want to quit already. I'm not interested in being here anymore. I enjoyed the job, or I did a job. Now you've already served notice that I really want to quit. I'm not interested in doing this job. Those last 2 weeks are torture. And if you don't like that example, I'll give you even a better example. A wife in the home. You know that the Gemara refers to a wife? The Gemara says a man should understand what he's got. Essentially, she's a shifka. Essentially, she's a servant. She cooks for you. She cleans for you. She keeps the house for you. She's doing what a servant. What's the difference between her and a servant? The answer is, in her mind, there's one difference. The difference is how you treat her. If a man treats his wife well, she's happy to do it. If you show a little appreciation and gratitude, she's happy to do it. If you don't show gratitude, she feels, what am I around here? I'm just a maid. Well, I'm nothing more than a glorified maid. And it's all about the attitude which she sees in his eyes. I told you, this lady comes to the table and she puts down a bowl of hay on the table. The men are sitting at the table. So the mother comes over, she puts on a bowl of hay. They're waiting for supper. She puts on a bowl of hay. She said, what's going on here? So listen, I've been serving meals around here for a long time. Nobody ever says thank you. I figured it didn't. Nobody ever shows appreciation. I figured it didn't matter to you, so I'll serve you hay. Well, next thing you know, they're starting to show appreciation. You could do the same thing. So for Hagar, who, up until this point, I was a maidservant. That's what maidservants are. I was a slave. That's what slaves do. Yeah, you do your job. You do your. All of a sudden, hey, we're equal. Why am I doing what she's? Why do I have to serve her? So at that point, according to the Parsha, when Sarah torments her, she's not doing anything extra in torment. Okay, there are midrashim that she was hitting her, but according to you don't even have to get there. She could have been tormenting her, just having her do what she was normally doing. That becomes torture when you don't feel that it's not my job. How do you feel when you graduate? Imagine these guys who graduate law school. They go to their first job, with their suit and their tie and everything else. And then the head of the firm comes into your office and says, "Hey Bob, want to run and get me a coffee?" That's what we went to law school for. All of a sudden, it's torture. It's torment. That's what. Now what? She runs away. Vayimtza malach Hashem al ein hamayim. The angel finds her, sees her by the water. Bamidbar ala ayin b'derech shur. Sees her out by the water hole. Vayomer Hagar shifcha Sarai. Amy zebas vanatelechi. Says, where are you coming from and where are you going? Vatomer mipnei Sarai gevirti adochi brachas. I'm running away from Sarai. What's the malach trying to tell her? What's that? What, he doesn't know where she's coming, where she's going from? The angel doesn't know? Of course he knows. What did he mean with that question? What did he mean when he says to her, where are you coming from and where are you going?
Who do you think you are?
Who do you think? You're okay, you're like hey, let's keep a perspective, which is what he's going to ultimately tell her. You are the servant. Keep the perspective. Hoodie, maybe turn it on. Turn it on and say, there's no way. Thanks. So the Mefarshim say, he's saying to her, think about what you're about to do. You're leaving the home of Abram Avinu, and where are you going to end up? You're going to end up in Egypt with a bunch of pagans. You're going to end up with a bunch of idols. Think about where you were and where you're going to. Amy Zebaz, where are you coming from? You're running away from Yeshiva to go off to rejoin that society? Think about where you are and where you're going to. Think about where a person is and where a person is going to. He says, where are you coming from and where are you going? She says, Vatomer mipnei Sarai gevirti anochi barachas. Oh, Hagar admits it. I'm running away from Sarah, my master. You've acknowledged it. You have acknowledged, okay, you got the point. You've acknowledged that she's your master. Vayomer la malach Hashem, shuvi el gvirtech, go back. And suffer over there. It's worth it. It's worth going there and suffering, but being in the presence and in the proximity of Avram Avinu and Sarai Menu is a lot better than going back to Egypt. But I got some news for you. I'm going to give you children. And then he says to her, he says 3 lines from the bottom. Vayomer la malach Hashem, hina chara, you're going to become pregnant. The allotted bane, and you're going to have a son. I'm going to tell you guys something now that's going to knock your socks off. The karas shmo Yishmael. You're going to name him Yishmael. Ki shama Hashem el onyech. Hashem has heard your suffering. You're going to have a son named Yishmael. So why is he called Yishmael? He's called Yishmael because Hashem has heard your suffering. Later on, right. The Medrash says, you know why his name is Yishmael? There's a Medrash in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. You know why he's called Yishmael? The Torah says he's called Yishmael because Hashem, Yishma, heard, Kel. God has heard your suffering. The Medrash says he's called Yishmael because at the end of days, his descendants are going to torment the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are going to cry out to Hashem, and Yishma Kel, Hashem will listen to our tefillah. That's what the Medrash says. His name is Yishmael, according to the Torah. That's what she's told. Included in the name is what's going to happen in the future, and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to respond to our prayer. It's Yishmael. 1 second. Now, the kicker. Says the Torah, what's going to be the nature of this guy? V'hu yeh pere Adam. Take a look at the Art Scrolls translation. He shall be a wild ass of a man. That's how the Art Scroll translates it. Yado bakol, his hand will be on everybody. V'yad kolbo, and everybody's hand will be on him. Ve'al pnei kol echav yishkon. He's going to dwell over everybody. He's going to be, let's take a look at Rashi. Again, I'm going to tell you something over here in a second, which is really going to give you the goosebumps, especially if it's cold in the room. Take a look at Rashi. Bottom of left column, 2 lines from the bottom. Pera Adam. What does it mean, pera? Now you'll notice phonetically, pera, the peh, soften the peh. What is it? Fera, right? Fera, like free. He's going to be a free man. Pera Adam, Fera Adam, a free man. What does it mean he's going to be free? Says Rashi, Pera Adam, left column, 2 lines from the bottom. Ohev midbaros lotzud chayos. He likes deserts to go hunting. And then at the bottom line it says Yodo bakol. His hand will be on everybody, says Rashi. Listim will be a bandit. V'yad kolbo hakol sonim oso. Everybody hates him. Umizgarim bo, and they're gonna fight with him. That's how Rashi translates it. Now look at the Targum Onkelos. 3 lines from the bottom. In the Onkelos. If you find it, do you know where the Onkelos is? It's to the parallel of the Chumash. Pasuk Yud Beis in the Onkelos. Look how in the Aramaic translation, what's a free man? V'hu yehe morod be'enasha. He will be the rebellious one among mankind. Hu yehe tzrich lechola. He will need everyone. V'yada dechol b'nei enasha yon tzrich lei. And everybody's going to need him. What does that sound like? Oil. Right. What do they need? They need basically everything, because they only have 2 things. They got oil and sand. But everybody's going to need him, and it's going to be worthwhile. So what does it mean, a para adam? What does it mean, a free man? What does that mean? According to Rav Hirsch, it means that if you look, the descendants of Ishmael, whoever they are, they do not obey the societal norms. They're nomads. They were living in what do you call Bedouins. They live out. They don't have a real city and a real dwelling. Certain places they do in certain areas, but there are many of them who they just kind of, they wander the desert. They set up a place to live without it being an official city. If you drive down to the Dead Sea and you look off to the desert, you'll see there are Bedouin encampments over there. They're not living anywhere. They're living in the desert. It's a free man. He's not restricted by the societal norms. Even more than that, one of the mistakes, and the mistakes are obviously created by financial needs and personal and vested interests, but when Israel, all through the years, where Clinton and Carter and all the presidents have tried to make peace in the Middle East. So what they fail to understand is all they're assuming is, well, we're Westerners and we'll talk logic and we'll sign a contract, we'll sign a treaty, but you don't understand. There's a different mentality over here. There's a completely different mentality. Yasser Arafat, he should rest in pieces. So Yasser Arafat, when Israel signed the Oslo Accord, the Oslo Peace Treaty, which did not lead to peace, it led to a lot of people being killed. But after they signed the Oslo Peace Agreement, Yasser Arafat was in South Africa and he made a speech calling for a jihad on Jerusalem. So the Israelis were upset because you know what jihad is? Jihad is a holy war. What's that? Struggle. A holy struggle. Okay, right, which means a war. And so the Israelis were upset. So they said they complained to the Americans who had brokered this Oslo peace agreement. So the Americans said to Arafat, "Hey, fix that up a little bit." So he said, "I meant the jihad of peace." So there was a scholar of Arabic on one of the networks, and he said, "There is no such thing as a jihad. It's like saying we're gonna drop a friendly nuclear bomb. It'll just be a friendly nuke, right? That's what. But you made an agreement, yeah. But they don't hold by agreements. They don't obey the societal norms. It doesn't work that way. It's a different mentality and it's a different culture. Where does it come from? Watch this. In English, if I want to describe something, where does the adjective come, first or last? What? First. Is a big man, a nice man, a good man. The adjective comes first. The noun comes second, right? True? Okay. What about in Hebrew? The opposite. In Hebrew, Adam Tov, Adam Yafeh, Adam Nechmad. He's a man, the noun, and then comes the adjective. Now, if I want to call somebody a free man or a wild man, in Hebrew, how should I say it? He's Adam Pera. He's a man who is wild or a man who is without constraints. How does the Torah say it? Para Adam. So Rav Hirsch says, what's the Torah? Which is the noun and which is the adjective? The noun is para. He is a wild. What kind of wild? A human wild. Otherwise it should be Adam para, not para Adam. He is a para. What kind of para? Adam. That means he looks like a human being. He has ears, nose, arms, right? He's not an aardvark. He's not a llama. He's not a hippopotamus. He's a human. What kind of para is he? He's a human para, as opposed to a hippopotamus para, an aardvark para, a lion para, a giraffe para. He's a human para, but he's a para. Just saying it the way it is, gentlemen. Just saying it the way it is. And anybody who's got an objection, well, then you're not being honest, because we see what the behavior is, or lack thereof, the lack of discipline, the lack of any sort of decency. Does it mean all of them? There was a United States, I think it was in the United States Senator, somebody got up because there was a lot of people were criticizing Muslim terrorists. And somebody came up and he said, most Muslims aren't terrorists. So this guy said, yeah, but most terrorists are Muslims. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. Most Muslims don't come from Kansas City. And most terrorists don't come from Kansas City. They come from Muslim places. So, okay, those are the facts. The Torah, that's what the Torah says over here. Those are the descendants of Ishmael. Okay. Then, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now go back. I just wanted to get that section taken care of. Now go back for a second. Go all the way back. We skipped this yesterday. We didn't have time. On page 56. So we have this incident of Abram going down to Egypt on page 66. So the Torah says, 8 lines from the top on page 56. Vahi Rav ba'aretz, ve'er Avram Mitzrayim lo gursham. Abram gets to the land of Israel and there's a famine. There's a famine. Now, where did he come from? He came from all the way where God told him to travel from Ur Kasdim. And he says, start traveling, go to the land of Israel, promises all sorts of good things. He comes to Israel, boom, famine. And Avram Avinu has to respond. There's a machlokes. What did he do? He turned around and went to Egypt. According to some, well, that's what you do. If you get to Israel, there's no food, so what are you going to do? You go to Egypt. According to the Ramban, he made a mistake. According to the Ramban, he failed the test. It was a test, he should have stuck it out. According to others, he didn't fail the test. He passed the test. How do you pass the test of famine? By not turning around and saying, hey, what's this all about? By not getting upset. That's sometimes a test in life, and we're going to see another test. He's going to go to Egypt, they're going to take his wife. It's a test. And what kind of test is it? I mean, you didn't really have a choice here. I told you there are two types of tests. There's one test where the non-kosher food is in front of me. I know I shouldn't, and it's a question of whether or not I'm going to muster up the willpower to not eat it. The other is where something happens and I accept it. I can either, you get stuck in traffic, right? There are two things. You could either start using all sorts of inappropriate vocabulary, or you could just say, Gam Zula Tova, Gam Zula. You start singing Gam Zula, the Gam Zula Tova song. That's the test. Nothing you can do about it. You're stuck. What can you possibly do? You're stuck in traffic. So why is it a test? The test is how you're going to accept it. This is how a person, how do you respond under the circumstances? So what happens? So Abram starts going to Egypt and he realizes that Sarah is very beautiful. And then he says to her like this, very puzzling. Take a look at Pasuk Yud Beis. V'haya ki yiru osach hamitzrim. Now when the Egyptians see you, v'amru, they'll say, Ishto zos, this is his wife. V'hargu osi, they'll kill me. V'osach yechayu. He says to Sarah, listen, you're beautiful. I realize you're beautiful. Different opinions how he realized it. According to some, he knew it all along. He was just surprised that after all this travel, she maintained her beauty. According to others, he didn't usually look at her, and he saw her reflection in the water. Whatever that is, he realized she's beautiful. He says, listen, we're going to go to Egypt now. They're going to kill me, and they're going to keep you alive. Do me a favor. Imri na achosia, tell them you're my sister. L'man yitav li ba'avurech, that they should bestow good on me. Rashi said they'll give me gifts. V'chaysa nafshi bigalech, and I'll stay alive because of you. What does that sound like, gentlemen? What's Abram Avinu saying to Sarah? Do me a favor, tell me you're my sister. And what'll be if you're my sister? What'll happen if she's a sister? How did it work in the ancient world? How do you make a shidduch with a sister? Take my sister as a wife, I'll take 3 camels, 2 bars of gold, and a sheep. Yeah, you bartered your sister away. So what does he say? He says, hey, do me a favor, listen, if you're my wife, they'll assume you're my wife, they're going to kill me. Do me a favor, tell me you're my sister. That way I'll get rich. They'll give me some presents, and I'll stay alive. And what if you were the wife at that point? Like, oh yeah, oh really? Oh, yeah, and a free trip a free meal for 2 at a restaurant. Also, I mean, this is what you're thinking about at this point. You think about they're going to give you gifts. So what was Abram really saying? What was Abram really saying? He's saying to Sarah, look, we got a problem over here. If they understand they think you're my wife, they're going to keep me and they're going to keep you alive. That's a fate worse than death. If I tell them you're my sister, so number one, I could charge an exorbitant price for you. Maybe they won't pay it. Maybe they'll just forget about it. And if they do pay it, so then at least I'll have some money. Maybe I'll be able to get you out of this. I'll be able to buy some, bail you out. It's in your best interest that I should stay alive here. I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for you. Because this way, at least I'll be alive to help you. Once I'm dead, you're to take it in, that's it, game over. So he says, Biglalech doesn't mean because of you, it means on your account. I'm doing it for you. So what happens? They see she's very beautiful. So the Medrash says he actually took a precaution and he put her in a box of some sort. He put her in a box. And the Egyptians opened the box at the border and they said, oh, a woman in the box. Yeah, my sister. And I could just see one of the Egyptians say, yeah, I used to put my sister in the closet too. I used to lock my sister in the closet and make howling noises. I could just see them going on about sister. What, your sister's in the box? Yes, my sister, the old sister in the box. Can you imagine Avram Avinu's passing? You've been at the airport in Israel, nothing to declare. Yeah, the green line, nothing to declare. He's coming through with the cart, heaped up to the sky. Nothing to declare. Buddy, come over here. Bo. You ever see that? They call you over. I think I've been called over once. And I was more than happy to open it up because I had like a leftover salami sandwich in there or something in my bag. And the guy opened it up, Ken. A sweet revenge. Yeah. And I passed through. I just go wheeling through. So however, she's in the box. So they bring her to Sarah. They bring her to Paro. Now, the question that Mefarshim ask over is twofold. Number one, this is considered one of the tests. And again, I ask you, where's the test here? Where's the test? He didn't have a choice. What's the test? And then she gets taken into Paro, and she warns Paro. She says, listen, I'm a married woman, don't touch me. And Paro approaches her, and the Malach comes into the room, and she tells the Malach, smack him up. Okay, that's what the Medrash says. What's the test? What's the test? The test is like this. A guy and his wife go to Washington, D.C., and they're standing outside the gates of the White House. Bill Clinton's the president, and Hillary's off on a trip in China. And all of a sudden the Secret Service guys come out and they say, hey, buddy, and they take the wife and they bring her into Bill Clinton in the White House. What do you think? What's the husband thinking at that point? Like, oh, boy. Yeah, well, they're discussing international diplomacy. Oh, yeah? With Bill Clinton in the White House. What's the husband thinking at that point? I was like, what are you doing to me, Hashem? You told me to come here. I go to Israel. There's a famine. I come down to Egypt. Now they're taking my wife. And it says Paro made Bill Clinton look like a Boy Scout. And you're taking my wife in there. What's going on here? Why are you doing this to me? And he passes the test. No complaints. No complaints. And Sarai Meno tells Paro, don't do it. I'm telling you now, don't do it. If you touch me, you're going to get smacked. And he gets smacked, and he says, you're out of here. So the last question is, the commentaries ask, well, why did they wouldn't take Sarah, they'd kill him first. In other words, they're worried about adultery, but not murder? Are we thinking about that? Wondering about that? Adultery, chas v'sholom. Oh, first let's just murder him, and then we'll be good to go. So there are different approaches. One approach is that, yeah, well, adultery is an avera every time. Murder is a one-time thing, number one. But there's a very interesting idea. The Malbim was one of the classic commentaries. He says, in the ancient world, a woman who was exceptionally beautiful was considered a goddess and is only suitable for the king. A commoner who's married to her is liable for the death penalty because you've taken something that belongs to the king. And therefore, there's justified killing of Avram Avinu. She's very beautiful. She's a goddess. She should be by the king. What are you doing with her? And therefore, they're not going to kill him they're not going to just murder him. They're going to execute him. It's a big difference. Justified execution. Because you're a commoner, you should be with her. And therefore, Avram Avinu understands that that's what's going on over here. Therefore, he goes through this whole plan. This is the plan of what do you call it? Of saying you're the sister. But at the end of the day, what's the test? The bottom line is, what's the test? And as I told you yesterday, I think, we spoke about, there are two types of tests in life. There is one which is the test of willpower, and there's a second one which is the test of acceptance. I'm in a situation, there's nothing I can do about it. What's my attitude towards God in that situation, under those circumstances? What's my attitude? That's the test. And if I'm stuck in traffic, or the bus doesn't come when I want, and I just say, no, gam zu l'tova, I've passed the test. And if I get upset, and certainly if I start cursing and swearing, then I failed the test. That's the idea. Okay, TBC.